right? And bring my girl down from above my head and become whole. Yeah, you can remember it in silly little ways. It makes it stick. You know, just silly little things that you don't have to remember what's been what way and all that. And just got my guy down there and got my girl up there. And hey, who needs company, right? I'm just joking. It's like being triplets, you know. And of course, you have your parallel sides. So there's all 6 of you. It's like the Brady Bunch. You know? Now, each cathar grid has its rod, its staff, obviously now, and it's a lot more to the staff than we first originally thought, and the rod going across, which is a parallel. You can move these guys by bringing the rod up and down. That's what we did with the when we started the rod techniques, where we start to use the rod to bring the pillar up and down. Once you get the hang of moving the pillar, you don't really need to use the rod. You just breathe it. And you play with the arcs and those kind of things. Now, this would be the full exhale position. The arcs are at their 45-degree stretch, right? There's an alignment of the pillars. Yeah, the pillars do align, but there's not much happening here. Now, back here, behind this guy, there's also ones of these in there that don't have the people in them, so you can see what the grids are doing and where the lotus points are, because these are the lotus points behind here, and they're actually, in the body. But this would be the full exhale position, where all of the arcs are at 45 degrees. And notice, too, the arcs are transmission lines, so it's not just the arcs. They also have that center line that transmits. Notice how they interface here. They actually do interface. This becomes interesting as breathing resumes, as this starts to come up here. It changes angles between things. And even if this one isn't moving yet, the movement of these and the shift of those angles in as they move toward the arcs going up to fold up into the biveka fold causes these to move, causes these to move. So they actually move with each other. Can I have the next one, please? I think that starts to show what happens with breathing. Yeah. Now here I'm kind of omitting some bodies just to get to the breathing, because it started out without the bodies in them, just showing how the grids phased, the ethos, the eros, and the PCM phased to generate sparks. So I'm still keeping it personal, so you realize I'm talking about the one that you're walking around in when we phase our arcs. You have all of these bodies attached to it. You have these cells. These are your photoflame cells. And you're in them, as opposed to them being just in you. You're in them. You also have small versions of them inside yourself at those 0.5 levels where the radon cells are. In your body, you also have those. Every little cathara grid, even that little density 1-1, has a set of radon cells and all of that. So this whole structure goes right down to the tiniest, all the way up to the largest aspects of self or universe. Now, this again, all right, we did a 3-pause breath in the Belize workshop material, and this is going to show a bit of what that looks like. Here again we have the full exhale. It says, under natural circumstances, spark pulse currents are generated in the etheric atomic pillar of power as the Lodi body inhales, contracts, and exhales, expands. At full expansion, etheric and density bodies separate. So you have the density body and the etheric bodies separate. And density lotus arcs are at 45-degree projection lines. So that's at full expansion, right? That's full expansion. Now the arcs are going to start to cycle toward each other as the inhale starts to happen. And first, this is actually going to cycle up. The ethos rises first. Next one, please. Okay, now the arcs are this is 1/3 inhale, right? As etheric photocells begin to phase, etheric photocells begin to phase as lotus arcs begin contracting towards center alignment. So they're starting to contract, going toward the center. These are coming down this way toward the center, right? And the same with each of them. See, this angle's changing. It's like they're locked together. Their transmission lines are actually locked. So one moves, the others will move. Now, okay. The etheric bodies contract together And the radon cells progressively activate to replenish energy in the pillar of power. So as these arcs are coming in, the top one's this way, the bottom one's this way, you have the Eros ones are phasing, you have these are phasing. Now the Eros isn't moving, its arcs are moving, but its circle isn't moving. Its ball of energy isn't moving. That won't release until the seals up here are released, and they won't release until the ethos does something for a while. All right? The ethos will come up because we're the PCM universe, which is core female of the et Tauri, right? All right. It will draw the ethos, the male, up and down and phase with the male. Now, the first third of the inhale, the first 1/3, where you have the tip that was, this gets real hard to see. I'll use this as an example, but it's what's happening down here. The tip, say, of the PCM, if this was the PCM one down here, the tip of that. The tip of this one, which is usually attached to it that way, this segment moves up 1. So you have the tip of the ethos, which is Cathara Center 1, interfacing or engaging with the density PCM Iyumbi. All right, that's called engaging. The next will be, the next part of the inhale will be where that moves from the Iyumbi, where the Cathara Center 1 of the ethos moves from the Iyumbi up to the Azure, and sparks again. And as that's moving, it's bringing this circle with it. It's phasing its light cell into the light sound cells of the density body. It's actually recreating them. It's re-energizing them. Now, I can go to the next one, please. There's also these little notes down the bottom. They were just like real quick ones that came in. I think they're accurate, though, but I didn't go back and double-check them with Ma'a. The one said that I think the Nadradon fires, or the radon cells begin the firing process as these arcs phase. Look what happens as the thing keeps closing up. It looks really neat. But what's happening is it's pulling into the pillar of power. It's pulling into that central pillar. The arcs are actually folding up and going vertical. And what that does is open the seals all the way through. First, the ethos seals. Now, this isn't all the way up yet. It's not into full alignment. This is the, I think this is the 2/3 breath. Yeah, can we pull that down a little so I can see the title on that? I think this is 2/3. Yeah, this is the 2/3 inhale, where you have Cathara Center 1 from the ethos now is in the Azure. There's one more that'll bring it up to here. That's when the arcs fully pull in to into the center pillar, which would be the vacuum tube when the crystal body inhales and takes all of the energy out of it. Actually, I think it's the exhale. When it exhales it out to the Lota, so it pulls the energy out of the pillar of power here. All right, that would be after 6 cycles of this. That's when the crystal body would get into things. But for now, you just have this happening on the third part of the inhale. This is the second part. The third part, you'd have Ethos Cathara Center 1 engaging with the Rajna flame. And at that point, there's a jump. There's an acceleration that takes place. And there's actually an automatic jump at the top of the inhale that allows the ethos to come into full alignment with the PCM. So they both become one circle. We have another one to show that, I think. Here, and then it gets really strange. Oh, there's quite a few, actually, that lead up to eventually trying to understand starburst. Okay, this is the one I just did mention, the third one. Look at where the lotus petals are. When the ethos comes up far enough for its K1 tip to engage the Rajna, the lotus arcs are completely pulled in to the pillar of power. That's fascinating. When that came through, oh, neat. That's how that works. You know, there was just like, I never quite visualized that. But they actually pull in to the pillar of power, and they do stuff in here that there's probably tomes of stuff that I'm going to get at some point as far as notes on exactly how they work. I was lucky I got the pictures drawn on these before we got here. And this has moved. It's no longer down here, the ethos grid, because it's now moving up. And its last stage is going to be to jump into full alignment here. Now this says at this stage, which is the third inhale, right, it says the Kethradon at 8.5 fires, the Kethradon at 4.5 initiates, and the Nadradon activates. So the flame cells on each one of these stages of the inhale this is working with the progressive activation of the radon cells, which are those cells that are actually holding, they're working like seals and also transducers between the different levels of the crystal bodies, right? Between, the lotosphere and the logosphere and the huvosphere, photosphere and ovosphere and huvospheres. So these are actually, when they release and activate, they're releasing whatever energy they have stored in, from the outer layers of the crystal body into the pillar of power. And they're also, I believe, opening up the pillar of power, where they're opening the different layers to each other. So they're opening the different layers of the crystal body to each other, the different sphere levels to each other. And that's letting more power in progressively, which I know there's a whole series, I can see it, where, remember the harmonics grid that had the diagonal lines and then the meiotic diotic points on them? That was somewhere in there. We've looked at that earlier. When all of that happens, that I just described, it brings that into activation, where it activates all the radon lines, or what are they called? The heliopath lines. Yeah, the heliopath, the radionic heliopath lines. So this is all connected about bringing more and more of the light body and those sound bodies on until you've got your diamond sun body activated, where you have those plasma rays coming in and sending out whatever their anti-plasma rays are, I don't know, whatever become those radon rays, that when the plasma rays are coming in, they go outward. And that's where you get your radiant sun body kind of thing. So all of this is connected with that. And it starts with being able to phase the pillars, again, being able to phase the light cells. Next one, please. Where are we here? Okay. Okay, so you pause breath. The pause at the top of the inhale is called the quickening. Eros aligns. Here we go. In response to the monadic spark release, there's a monadic spark release at the last one. That I didn't read the small print, but it releases a monadic spark. That's what makes the jump happen, where the ethos fully aligns with the PCM grid. But in response to that, the ethos light body jumps up in frequency and aligns fully with the PCM density body. So it's not down there at all anymore. It literally jumps all the way up into full alignment, where the two light cells are fully aligned. Okay, releasing spark currents into the radon cells. So when it does that, and I bet they go through these, I bet they use the lotus points to get back into the pillar to go into the radon cells. So it releases sparks into the pillar of power when it jumps fully up. Let's see. I think, let me see down here a little bit, honey, please. Yeah. Okay. The Eros moves through 6 cycles of exhale, inhale, charging, I think that's supposed to say ethos, moves through 6 cycles of exhale, inhale, charging the radon cells in the pillar, breathing through. That should be ethos there. So if you got a pen, you can correct that on your own copies. That should be ethos. And what that means is it comes up, does its little jumpy thing, releases sparks into the pillar, and then goes back down again. And that's the exhale. So it goes. But you actually start with the exhale. You start from 0, point, still point, 2, 6. When you get up to 6, then you would you go into that 7th cycle, which would be the Elan and I can do them with Heatharos and Heathalons, but I get tongue-tied when I have to take the he's off the fronts of them. The Aro cycle and the Elan cycle of acceleration, getting ready for a jump into the the 8th cycle, which is the leap cycle. This goes into those 6 cycles of all sorts of things. There's the 6 cycles of the Aeonic calendar that we've dealt with in Ireland. That was very, very complex stuff that had me slightly fried mentally at the time. It still does on occasion when I look at it. It also has to do with the 6 cycles of growth and of expansion and contraction that are the cycles of growth through which a pattern expands into manifestation. The first 6 days of creation, and then there was rest, Well, not in the normal cycle there wasn't rest. There was a quickening at that point. That's where you had the electrical peak and the magnetic peak. And then after that is where you had the leap and the shift back to 0 point. Then there was rest. Mm-hmm. So technically, there were 6 days and 2 quick jumps. And then there was rest. And the cycle started over. So this is all keyed into. Those cycles have to do with how frequency expands and contracts in the shields, which means how it expands and contracts, how fast, what the rhythm is that it will expand and contract within the manifestation itself, the entire level of all of the bodies. There are 6 exhale, inhale breaths to creating the lotosphere, then the logosphere, then the photosphere, then the ovosphere, then the huvasphere, and then the 5 huvas extending out. They are, again, the 6 breaths. Exhale breaths, and then come back to the center, another exhale. It actually forms a spiral that I have, the pictures are only partially done, so I didn't even try to, stick them up because they weren't great yet. But it showed how it actually, when you look at the shield template, it forms a spiral that comes out, kind of looks like a snail shell, and the way they go around. And then it hits a certain point where it's fully expanded into its pattern, and then it can shift up to the next higher level or go all the way back to the starting point, to where it was. And that gets into things we talked about in Voyagers, about bridge zones and risings and fallings of planets and things. But we don't have to get into that. Okay. So anyway, this is, yes, that's cute. This is called the quickening. Now, if it's only, if it gets to this point where the ethos and the PCM align, and it's only, say, your first breath or anywhere before it's your 6th breath, or the planet's 6th breath, which may be however many years, all right, or thousands of years, it would just come back down. It would go up, jump, release the sparks into the pillar, and then come back down. And when it came back down, of course, the arcs would come back out of their alignment. They close. The pillar would close again. The radon cells would close off between the densities again, because they open, and the whole pillar opens, running the full length of what you'll see in a little bit is the spiral. Okay, so when the arcs open, that all closes again. Everything expands out, and that's where you get the separation between the huva bodies. They expand out, and the arcs will go back to 45 degrees. Now, if it happens to be the 6th breath, the 6th breath of a cycle, it says on the 6th inhale breath following the 6th exhale, the seed atoms spark, initiating the RO electrical peak. The electrical Merkaba top spirals reach peak spin speed, depolarize, and the ethos grid rises to the eros. So on that 6th cycle, like the 6th inhale, you would have the ethos coming up like it did on the rest of them, but it would rise up and go into merger with the eros. And that's what triggers the eros to be able to come back down. And there's several things that can happen when it comes back down. And this is where we get closer to understanding starburst, but not quite yet. Okay. PCM and ethos ascends. So we got to the point where we had the PCM grid, the density grid, and it had been aligned with the ethos. And now the ethos jumped up to align with the eros. All right. On the 6th inhale breath, this is explaining more. Following the 6th exhale, the seed atoms spark, and ethos reaches RO electrical peak, ascending into eros alignment with the imprint of the density body. Now, this was that ectoplasmic imprint that we talked about for anybody who was with us in the Paxis stuff when we got the process of Hetharo and Hethalon, where during Hetharo electrical peak there was an ectoplasmic double of our images, of our literal content of molecular structure and consciousness that was taken up into the Eka. In ectoplasm is ectrons, which is the D8 primal units here. Our primal rare units. So this is what it is doing. It's taking an imprint, and it's a D8 imprint, the ectoplasmic imprint of with an imprint of the density body. So you have Eros goes up. Density body hasn't gone up yet, but an imprint of it has, okay, into the ethos. Now you have ethos and its twin, Eros, coming together here with an imprint of the density body. Sounds like a marriage. Density lotus arcs remain vertical. Okay, so the arcs are staying vertical. Now if they had gone back down again, if it wasn't the sixth cycle, they would have just expanded back out again, and the pillar, they would come out of the center of the pillar seals would have closed back up, and the center pillar would have closed. But these, they stay open, they stay vertical. I don't have them drawn in here at all. I didn't have time to do that, but I was getting the words anyway. So you still have the PCM arcs are still in the vertical column. So are all of these. All right. Now, let's see what happens next. Okay, so the density arcs remain vertical in the pillar breathing tube, and ethos and eros merge, opening to the 12-petal lodum. All right, so the ethos and eros merge, and it opens the conduits between the PCM loti and the PKA loti. So it begins the process of activating the lodum by bringing those two bodies together. Now, okay, yeah, ethos light body jumps to alignment with the eros sound body, carrying an imprint of the PCM density body. Okay, next one, please. The seventh breath. I remember it took I got those for a week, and then I couldn't pull the rest. It wasn't there. Well, what happens next? I wanted to know. They left me there. Now what? What do we do after that? Just got to put it back down again. I know it does something up there. I want to bring it up. Yeah. The seventh breath. The seventh exhale of a sixth cycle. The lodum 12-petal lotus arcs open, okay, up here in the etheric, right? The etheric arcs open first. They spark the etheric rod, and merged ethos and eros body descends into full PCM lodi alignment. So these open, the 12 etheric arcs open. It triggers the spinning of the rod. These two, the ethos and eros, merge, and they descend into the body. We haven't done this yet. Yeah. I can't wait to try this one. I think we have to have a few more things open before we can, though, like the breathing tube. Might be a little bit difficult to do without that. Okay. Now, let's see. And the PKA density PKA density alignment, PKA Lodi density. Let's try to see what this says. I was writing really fast at this point. Lotus arcs and marker, but reach our electrical peak. Okay, so this comes, Elon. Okay, right. When the ethos and eros descend into the PKA PCM body, that will kick this Merkaba into its RO electrical peak. All right. So before you had the ethos and the eros going through their electrical peak cycle and doing the lotus activation. That would be the etheric activation. And that, once this took place, would allow these to come down and trigger the activations in the densities, and into the density bodies. Next one, please. Yeah, here's where I don't want to do it because it's all new. It's like, okay, some of it is stuff I understand, but they took it right into moving toward the pillar of power stuff, and it gets a bit complex for me. The seventh breath. Okay. Light, sound, ethos, eros bodies, and PCM Lodi and PKA Loti densities shift to 45-degree Eka alignment. All right. So after a sixth cycle, when you hit the seventh, hit the electrical peak. Once the ethos and eros merged up there, hit the 12-petal lotus and the etheric, come down, merge with the PCM, then it starts these two swinging toward each other into the Eka alignment axis. Like this. Okay? Can you lift that up a little bit, honey? This is where, when they reach 30 degrees, they start at 45 degrees away from the Eka 0 point. The Eka would be the 0 point. And then these start to phase toward this is the PCM set, the ethos starts to phase toward the eros, and they begin to align with the eka. This would be the 30 degrees. That's called the anatolia state. It's 30 degrees to the 0 point. So they're each 30 degrees away from the 0 point where they meet. That would be the 7th inhale of the 6th cycle. All right, that's the stage they're each. Next one, please. That's not me, is it? It's your watch? Okay. I knew it sounded like one of ours. Okay. Now, the 8th breath, Athanatalia, and it's supposed to be Rushe Pillar Reset initiates. Okay. 8th cycle. The Eka 13th pillar opens within the PCM loti and PKA loti breathing tubes, opening the lotum to the Eka lota breathing tube and opening the Ark of the Covenant 45-degree axis passage. The breathing tubes open into each other, which I found pretty neat. So, oh, I didn't know that. I probably should have thought of that, but I didn't. So you have here the PCM set, because remember, the ethos and eros came down. They're now aligned with the PCM. So you've got the whole package moving into alignment with its parallel whole package, okay, where they're all brought in together. And that's when they start to phase in the 45 degree. What's real interesting is the planet went through this stage. It started this stage already. When we went through in 2003 the Hetharo and the Hethalon stages, that was the beginning, and we did get into the 45-degree shift. The planet's radial body shifted into the 45-degree shift. Its axis didn't, but that's going to, well, if it did, we wouldn't be standing here right now. We have a buffer field on the planet. If it had been done without the Ark of the Covenant buffer field, it would have been a pole shift, a physical pole shift back into its natural alignment. But what they're doing is aligning the radial bodies and the fields around the planet, and it will hold gently to on its own. Once the time codes balance out, it will slowly move itself back into its natural alignment. But what are aligned are the etheric bodies and enough of the shields where you can open the pillar. Now, they weren't going to fully open the breathing tube yet until there was more full alignment, because you don't have to fully open them unless you're going to take it right into the Eka. We were going to coast in the bridge zone for a few cycles until the planetary grids could be repaired enough to make this leap. But because this is one of the most vulnerable stages in the whole game, when those pillars start, when it's made this swing and these start to open, and these have opened, then there's no turning back at that point. If these grids become misaligned during that process, you're going to have frequency coursing down from the Eka gates, pillar by pillar, and it's going to be hitting the shields in places it's not supposed to hit, because it's supposed to be at specific angles, and it'll rip holes in the shields. And with their little wormhole games that they've been playing lately, we entered this, as the Earth entered the 8th breath exhale cycle after the August 2003 Hethalon. So we entered that, and here it says, Earth just began the Rushe reset with activation of the Rushe Pillar 13, August 2003, Hethalon cycle, and activation of Rushe Pillar 1, number 1, in August 27, 2004. So we started the activation cycles of the pillars. They're coming in. And now the grids are misaligned again because of the wormholes being open. I'll show you why, because there's something that's pulling this all and trying to make it come back over here. And it's offsetting it just enough that it's misaligning the tubes, the breathing tubes, which will misalign the angles that the arcs come in, it's kind of like major laser beams coming in and like burning right through the shields, because they're hitting where they don't belong. If they came in and hit on their little landing pads where they do belong in the gate systems, they are in the pillar spots. There are like spots in the shield where they're supposed to come down, and they're compatible with those spots. But if they hit like, half a county over, there's going to be a problem, because it will fry the grids. It will crash the grids in those areas, and that creates all sorts of wackiness inside the planetary core and stuff. They knew that when they started this. They did this on purpose. They figured, well, look what we can do. And now we just, look what we can do. We can do Rushate. You can't do Rushate. Right? Fortunately, because at least we can still hold the planet together. So we did enter this cycle. The next natural phase we would have gone into would have been this, with the biveca fold where it goes into athanatelia. Goes from anatelia, triveca fold, into athanatelia. And the next phase is where it goes and goes up to visit the eka. And they all pull in together, and they disappear from down here. That would be the laetalea, where they pop into the alignment with the lodi in the hyperspace in the veka system. That's a natural process. That's also the natural process of Merkabah breathing, the real stuff, where you're going to transport yourself someplace once you get your system straightened out. But again, these are important. It's important to have your tubes, your breathing tubes, in a place where they can align. And right now, because our planet doesn't, ours are having a problem too. But there is something that helps to cure that, and it's called that we're getting to that real quick. Well, I'm going to show you this one, though. This is the last one, I think, in this series. Is this the last one in this series? There's not one more? That's, I think, the one. Yeah, that's the one. All right, this again would be the natural, I believe. Under natural circumstances, Earth would have reached Ekashai 2012 to 2017. Ekashai is what you'd call the end of that cycle, where it does pop up into alignment with the Lota and disappears in hyperspaces here. It goes up the Shalaya passages of the Ark of the Covenant, and, like whatever it is, literally disappears from here. You might see like a flash of light where, like, Earth goes supernova, or just disappeared. But then it came back again, that kind of thing. You used to hear that in the New Age movement. That was before the Anunnaki defected from the Emerald Covenant. They were all looking forward to it. Oh, yeah, we're going up to visit the Eka. Really cool. And then they decided they were going to make war with us instead. Didn't hear much about that anymore, about Earth becoming a star and all that kind of stuff. Oh, well. So that's the natural process, and that's where the lotus arc petals would become the 24-petal echolota. That's where all the arcs open up and spread together. And then there'd be another cycle that started where it came back down at 45 degrees, and back into the natural Veka positions, and did its vertical phasing again until the ethos built up enough charge where it jumped up to, fully visit the PCM, and then it jumped up enough to visit the Eros up above, and that brought the Eros down into the PCM, and that allowed them to swing 45 degrees so they could go over and meet on the Eka axis again and do the Anatelia and then Athanatelia. So this whole process that's natural. This is what naturally happens with the light bodies and the physical manifestation if the light bodies and the etheric bodies are breathing properly, which they haven't been. That's why we're all sitting here for ages and ages and ages, and we still haven't been able to pop off. It's like just somebody kept the light switch on and just wouldn't let it flash off again. And that's what those arcs at the 60 degrees are like, being nailed to a cross where you can't move, you're stuck. You're stuck on, and you can't do anything about it. And what that does is drain the seed atom. It doesn't give the ability to spark anymore, so the seed atom can't replenish its charge through the natural sparking process. So things die because the seed atom burns out. It loses its charge and progressively has less and less to send. The body deteriorates. There's not enough life force running through it because literally the system eats itself alive because it has nothing else to refuel with. And that's not a natural state for the planet nor for the human condition. Now, all right. Now, in the event that the Rushate spiral of the breathing tube core misaligns after the 8th exhale has begun and the Eka gates have initiated automatic Rushate pillar anchoring, crisis emerges as the Rushate pillars intersect the Lodum shields at the wrong angles, creating red pulse shield shattering. If this potential arises, the crystal body enters an automatic rapid restoration cycle called a starburst cycle. During a starburst rapid restoration cycle, the echolota releases its Eros Tha sound body into a series of intense descents down into the Lodum. Now, all right, let's say this is the Eka up here now. We're stuck at this position, and misalignments are occurring down here. Well, all of a sudden, you get this whack, whack, whack that starts to do rapid descents, bringing Eros in. Now, 2. A Rushate starburst cycle. All right. With each Eka Eros descent, every time it comes down here, one entire Eka Veka pillar shifts 90 degrees as the Eka Eros cell draws Eka Veka draws the eka veka through the akasha into merger with the parallel eka ethos via the Ark of the Covenant. So I was thinking, okay, where do I put what to draw that? You know? So this basically comes down, and one pillar at a time, it shifts at 90 degrees, so it ends up over here, where it's in alignment with the parallel eka axis, which would be at 90 degrees to the eka axis, which would be in alignment with the akasha axis. So basically, we're going over there, one pillar at a time. And you need your breathing tubes functioning to make this happen, or you don't go over there, and part of the grids that can handle it do, and we get to sit here with all the rest of the guys and have a party and say, hi, guess we're staying after all. Oh, boy. Then it's time to go, hide. You know, time to hide. Last thing I want to do is get stuck down a black hole with that crew. Yeah, you kidding? After bringing this work out publicly, it's like, no, thank you. Yeah, they'd use it as entertainment, tormenting me in any way possible. You know. So, Earth entered a Rushate starburst cycle it was actually between May and June, but officially May 2004, due to the Buddhara wormhole project and what they're doing. So, it looks like one pillar at a time, we're shifting from where we are right now, where our radial bodies are shifted in this axis. What this is going to do with the golden fleece host that's holding the planet. Now, I think that's beginning to erode because of what the Buddharas are doing, and I think that's part of what's happening here. And that's why we're starting to see some, and it's mild so far, 5, 6, 20 hurricanes, whatever. How many is it going to take before somebody says, maybe it just moved into moderate? It's been very mild as far as any planetary effects so far. But it may get a little strange. And if it does, it's because they're doing something called using the graviton vortex. And this is something I wanted you to see, what this stuff looks like. To be able to understand what that is, we got 15 minutes. 14 minutes? 15 minutes. Yes, they need to see this. They need to understand the spiral if they're going to understand the vortex. Yeah. So we'll go right into those. So we know what starburst is. Now, let's find out what the Rushate spiral is, because through that you'll be able to understand what the graviton is, and you'll be able to see why we're having a little problem keeping that natural alignment with our Heka, because we have something sucking on us this way and pulling us down this way. And it's now has double the power because it's hooked up to the other wormhole system. This is the natural pattern of the Rushe, right? You have the Rushe vortices. This was the pattern down here that we used to use for stands. It was called the Amente interface pattern. It was a pattern that was meant to allow the distorted grids, which are running on what's called the twisted sextant pattern, that is the Metatronic pattern. It was to allow the beginning healing of that. The sextant pattern had, if you look at these things as vortices here, and the vortices open into chambers, right? Now, if you look down here, there's one set that would have the vortice and the chambers open, but these had blocks in them. If we could anchor our pillars here and here that began the process of being able to get into the twisted template in the first place, and we were able to open the arcs because there were actually both sides. You need to raise that? Okay. Can you raise that, please? Down here. This was the Amente interface pattern. Now, a natural shield should have the Rushe pattern. That should have been what we were able to do when we first started doing round tables, but we couldn't. We had to anchor first and get something running, because the sextant pattern, which we'll see in a little bit, has not only blockages on the vertical vortices, but it also had blockages on the rod vortices. So in running rounds in this configuration, we began the process. We allowed these vortices to open to get the rod moving. The next natural thing to do would be to get the staff moving. Now, if you look at this as a flat template for now, like this, and that actually interfaces with the Cathara grid in two ways. One, you have it running through as the shield patterns on the horizontal, but two, it forms the octave shield, I believe. Is it harmonics or octaves that ran that way? I haven't looked on that stuff in a while. But this was the 8 one, so I think it was the octave shield that runs vertically. Okay? So it's the same pattern. So it anchors arcs in this way, like the pillar arcs would come in this way, and they'd also come in this way. Now, the ruchete is the natural set of frequencies, like chords of frequency, that are supposed to come down through all the gate systems, through all of the density shields, and anchor through all the density shields into the natural ruche pattern. They haven't been able to do that because of the twisted thing that you'll see in a little bit. This is an improvement from what it was, where you had both sets blocked, which meant none of the vortices could turn properly, which meant none of the frequency from the Eka could come in properly. It was literally the hijack of the whole template. It was pretty nasty. Now, this, again, was the ruche up here. Can you put this down, honey, please? Okay, that's the natural ruche pattern. You have the 4, just like the necklaces, you know, you have the 4. You have the 13th pillar in the center, and then you have 1, 2, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's the natural alignment for the ruche, because that's the natural alignment that the ruche spiral of chords, or frequency, spiraling frequency chords coming down from the light cells in the matrodon are supposed to be able to do. The matrodon anchors and gives the ability for the 15 cells of the Akasha, the Eka Yanesa 15 cell seed atom. Each one of those cells sends down a array of frequency. They become the core frequency templates for the 15-dimensional spectra. So the Eka 15-dimensional spectra gets stepped down here into the PCM. Now, under natural circumstances, which one are we at? Which one are we at? Okay, yeah. That also plugs into the DNA templates. The DNA template is the same thing. It's actually structured like that. These DNA strands would actually be the things you see coming from the edges of these vector vortices. If you trace those lines out, that's where you get the clock face, right? And that's where you get the strand diagram that would plug in to the ruche, the natural ruche. Now, this is what the 4-strand mutation looks like. That's what we've got right now. This is more the configuration of what the DNA should look like. You have spirals within spirals, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute when we see the ruchete spiral. That's a mini version. The DNA is actually a mini version of the ruchete spiral coming in. Next, please. Okay. Now, here we go. These were another one of those diagrams that had me seeing triple by the time I was done doing them with all these loop-de-doops. Okay. If this is the natural template, can you pull that up a little bit? They can see it better here. Thank you, honey. It anchors down through the Cathara grid. And if you look at the ends of these, all right, you have, I'll show, yeah, this one here would be the magnetics. They would be the 4 inner ones, all right, the 4 inner pillars of the ruche pattern. So when we do rounds, the seer pillars that we're anchoring, they're actually, the natural pattern is the 4, which would be 4 females actually in the center when you think about it, except you also have females that run more Mane than Ire, so it doesn't really matter the gender in that way. But the natural pattern would be, you'd have the DNA core template would look similar to the other way. There would be 4 pillars that anchor into those spots, and then there would be 8 electrical ones on the outside. Actually, they have these 4 electrical, and these could actually go either way, because they would be, that's the 3, 6, 9, and 12, which correspond with the Manu, which is the positive, negative, 0 charge. It can go, either way. So that would be the natural configuration. This is a spiral of energy that starts out with its magnetic core, and can you pull that up a little bit? Sorry. And this would be its electrical set, because it has more electricals running, like more electrical prongs. These tend to run the 3, 6, 9, and 12. Actually, the 3, 6, 9, and 12 are the magnetics. Yeah, I'm getting myself confused here. 3, 6, 9, and 12 are the magnetics. They run here, so they would be the female receivers. And then you have the 8 males around this way, the 8 male electrical spirals coming in. This means that each one of the little, there would be a little foot. All right, see these little feet sticking out the spirals up here? Each one of those would plug into one cell in the Yanesa light cells up in the Akasha, and they would bring down the frequencies into a spiral that would configure to the Rushe spiral pattern, all the way from up there, from the center of the Eka, all the way down through whatever's manifest down in the Veka systems. That's how it's supposed to work. And it's a natural spiral of frequency that would have the 13, 14, and 15 at the center. So you'd get the primal light field at the center, and then you would have the 12 density potentials, or the 12 things that become the density currents, would follow the Rushe pattern. And that's how the natural structure is supposed to be. So you put these two together. You have the magnetic one on the inside. Could we show this corner, please? I stuffed a lot on this diagram, but you have to move it all over the place to see it. So this is the magnetic one that corresponds with these, right? And these are the electrical ones that correspond with these. And then there's the center pillar, which would be the one that runs up the center. That's naturally supposed to be spiraling up and down your body. What's really cool is it forms the chakras, the natural chakras. Can you show the next one, please? 7 minutes. Oops, that's not chakras. What is that one? Do I need that one there? Oh, that's showing a double one, actually. That's showing... It's also... I also hinted at the mutation here. See this? This is the unnatural structure of the sextant shield. What was the Amente interface pattern here, at least we got to open some of it. But the shield is actually, the sextant shield is built on, there's a center pillar. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. They call it 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over, 5 going this way, and then 5 going this way. What it is a center pillar. It still has these guys, but the numbers have all been messed up into a mess because they've shattered shields and forced half of this one into half of that one and half of the other one. I have a rough sketch of that somewhere. That's not on this page yet. But this, instead of having the Rushe pattern for those spirals to plug into, what is mutated things into is a set of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 by 1, 2, same one, 4, 5, right? It's going over. It's changed completely. It's reduced the amount of frequency by half, and these are all reversed, which means the currents are running in reverse. That is the core template of the sextant shield. And what we need to do is bring in the natural Rushe spiral again, because what is being done with this is, it's a real shame, actually. The gravitron vortex is a mess. Let me see if it's on that one. Yeah, I don't think we're up there. I was going to show you the chakras first. Before I show you the gravitron, I'd like you to see, just look at the natural spirals and how they look and stuff. And I want to show you also where the chakras come in. Notice here I have a 0.5 scale running, okay? So you have 6.5. That would be, right, this line here. That's the Azure line, okay? Then you have 9.5. That would be the Rajna line in your Kathara grid, right? You have the 11.5 line. That's the point where the Yan flow comes in. Remember that 11.5 is also the point where you have the photosphere starting. So these have very direct correspondences, these crossovers, have direct correspondences to the 0.5 scale. That's the natural alignment of the Rushate. All right, and the Rushate would have, there's its electricals and there's its magnetics, put them together, and there you have the magnetics inside of the electricals. The electricals would actually appear in the RNA, where the magnetics would be a reflection of them in the DNA. And they together would form the natural 12-strand pattern. So the 12 strands don't stick out like that. The 12 strands are interwoven like that. But the most important thing is, even beyond the DNA, is the spiral itself. This is a massive spiral that even on your largest crystal body levels, it's running that whole width. So it's a spiral that's around you as well as a spiral that's within you. All right, next one, please. I have to go quick because I want to pick this out of here. This is showing you what happens when you inhale. What's supposed to happen when you inhale. Now, this one was rough, and I didn't get a chance to clean it up much. It would have taken a couple hours, actually, to clean this all up and get all the shadow lines out. But this was that you inhale, and it goes, and it pulls the dimensions together, actually, inside the body. It also disengages down here temporarily from the, see, I had the numbers on the paper master, but they got cut off when I ran it through the photocopier. So this one is in progress, but it's just showing you the concept of those stretched out spirals. That's the exhale expansion, lotus arcs out. Then when you inhale, it brings these all up and squeezes them together. And that's the same time that you're bringing all those density bodies back together into the center again. So it's expands and contracts like an accordion. And they were very specific. This is where I had to, like, all right, this one's 5/8 between each 5/8 of a step. This is a third of a step. This is a quarter of a step. It was driving me nuts. I had to cut them out, and that's where all the shadow lines are from. And I didn't have time to fix them. All right, yeah. This is where things get cool. These spirals literally generate the chakras. Now, if you look at that as the side view of the chakras, same spiral, right? At the 0.5s, you have 1.5 is where chakra 12, and these interface with the larger Rouchet spirals that stand at verticals that come down from the larger levels of the bodies, the otospheres. Yeah, it's a good word for them, otospheres. Yeah, it means all of them together. The electrical spiral itself generates, you have 1. This one would actually have 4. It would have a horizontal, but it would have a vertical because that's connecting at 11.5. You would have actually chakra 7. At 10.5, you'd have chakra 6, and it would have these two side ones. See the little bow tie vortices this way? And it would have one set running this way as well, because they're Rouchet vorticets on the density levels. They run the 0.5 scale, and you can see exactly, precisely where they cross over, what chakra it is, and each of these loops, it's the fact that this spiral is spiraling through, that it's forming the spiraling vortices between the spirals, and they are the chakra system. So there's this relay system, and there's a place where the lotus points also plug in to this entire system and circulate energy. The chakras are still etheric. They're still dealing with etheric currents, and they're moving the etheric currents from these spirals, starting to bring them on their way into the etheric atomic interface system of the lotus points, where they would then go into the nadis lines and move into manifest form. These would be the magnetic chakras. Now what's really cool is the chakras turn on during the exhale phase. Yes? Yes. Exhale phase. Where the single pillar, and it might help to see these two together, the one we just had on, if you could just put them a little bit near each other. Yeah. No, the one before that. Yeah, or wait, I did the regular one. The regular expanded one. Yeah, thank you. Okay. Now, that's showing it in a stationary position of expansion, but it's not showing the actual dynamic of expansion. Because when it expands, that center pillar, these center ones, they actually go into a spread where the pillar in between them opens, and they polarize. And it's through the polarization that spiral turns into 2, and between them, the chakras open, and the pillar opens to allow the chakras to spin energy out of the pillar and begin pushing them into the interface system of the step down. I found that absolutely fascinating. I said, oh, look at that. That's where they came from. I wonder where they came from. So it means that the chakras phase on and off. They're not supposed to be sitting there like wheels stuck on inside of your body forever and ever. You're supposed to have 4. Everyone should have 1 here, 1 coming out the back, and 2 on the sides as well. Right now we have 2 that never shut off. Why? Because our lotus arcs got stuck in a crucified position, which means we got stuck somewhere in the middle of a phase where the chakras were left open so the pillar can be constantly drained. And that's the life force that's perpetually recirculated through until it burns itself out. And what does this? Where are we? I think I want to go right to the gravitron thing just so they can see this, because we're getting to like last moments here, and if anybody decides to make us leave. Yeah, I do want to show them the one with the chakra on the Cathara grid before we leave, but I want to show them the gravitron first. All right. Okay, I'll give you these back. Okay. When we look at this in terms of the body, that same 0.5 scale, where we can find where in the spiral, there's the 2 spirals together, pulled into the polarization that allows the chakras to turn on. Okay? And they turn on in the front and on the sides. Right? This is supposed to be. Once you know where they're really supposed to be, you can call them back to where you'd like them to be. You can assist once you start anchoring the natural ruchete. You can, once you have part of that pillar running, this is why we have to get the zendradon planetary cell to open so we can begin opening ours. We'll do a little bit of practice tonight, he's saying, but we can't do a full thing because he's not going to do that tonight with the company that's around. And also we can't do a full one anyway. We can play with the arcs, but we can't spark them yet to get the whole breathing thing going, to open the breathing tube, until the planetary grids release the zendradon. Can't talk, I'm so tired. And anyway, this shows you where the primary 7 embodied chakras are. The other ones go up higher, and we can figure that out. What's next is, and we didn't have time to do this, okay, exactly what way is which one supposed to spin? Which I wouldn't doubt. If this goes back to looking at those diagrams that were driving me insane with all the little axiatonal lines spinning in different directions, I think it has something to do with that. So we'll find out, and we'll be able to tell on males and females, do they spin different? What we have right now are the 2 pillars. We're supposed to have one counterclockwise inner pillar, and then which would be like the meage field and the magnetic field, and then the electrical field on the outside of it, the natural structure. What we have now is created by the sectional shield distortion, and males, I believe, have 2 counterclockwise sets, and they're not 12 sets anymore. They have the 5 down and 5 across, and the males are going counterclockwise. Things like more things you can incarnate into, and incarnate your family into if you're invading a planet from the inside out. So we are going to begin the process of healing the chakra system by bringing in the ruchete spiral. And the ruchete spiral, the natural spiral, is what has the power to clear the gravitron vortex. And this is what I would like to show you. It's still rough, but it's close enough to give you the idea. This is real rough, and I just didn't have time. Like, this is what the last one I said, I'm not leaving without this one. It has to be done. Yeah, it's a finale. They have to see this. This is, in its progress, it's actually something I can read, but it's very hard to read, and I have to read it like on paper, not on Mylar. This was the Amente interface pattern that I took just to use as the model for what should be closer to what was supposed to be there, just to illustrate what they did. And I have to do this in a way that shows exactly which half of which is stuck where. Because what they did was they shattered the natural shield positions, the natural shields that were supposed to anchor each of those spirals, and they forced them together into reverse, unnatural numerical ones, so they could anchor part of those spirals, but on the reverse current. So they could literally hijack the spiral, and that's what has been done on the planet, but it's also bigger. It goes up to the black hole in the center of the galaxy and a few other places that go up higher, like up into Polaris and the Gaian system. And that's 3 densities worth. So that's a lot of spiral messes. Now, this template, once the hieroglyphics are kind of cleaned up where you can see, it actually shows how the natural template was cracked and forced into artificial, unnatural bonds so it could anchor this pattern instead of a ruche. Now, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's only 9 dots there. Right? We're supposed to have 12 plus 3 in the middle. What happened to the 15 dimensions? What happened to the 15 currents? They're not there anymore. They're shut off. What's worse is you can't generate currents between them because they both go in the same direction. So all it does is create static between them. They have the same polarity. So they're actually creating a static field between them, which means the spiral hardly spins. Where it's supposed to spin, and it's supposed to phase and open the chakra and stuff. They're just leaving this static charge build, and they have the chakras forced open because of the lotus arcs being forced open. The pillars are forced in that open thing. And that's what's circulating to keep the systems alive. No wonder people die on this planet. No wonder everything dies on this planet eventually. And this is a condition that can be corrected, but it takes a lot of frequency to do it. Fortunately, they've made it so bad that it's going to get better, whether they like it or not. Even if they send themselves back as space dust, more rapidly than they had in mind. Because if they keep messing with the spiral and keep trying to play with it now that it's set into a Ruchete cycle, I mean, it's not us doing it. It's coming, whether they like it or not. It was a consequence for what they did in the grids. They're still trying to pull. What this does is we're already totally out of alignment. This would be the natural solar north here, right? What we've got is one part, the electrical part of the template, was forced into the 23.5 degree shift. And then the magnetic part was forced in between the 23.5 and the natural north, which put it at around 11 3/4, and it wobbles. And it does a cycle around that while this wobbles this way. And this creates this magnetic vortice down here that totally controls and holds the angle of the ecliptic shield in. It holds the shields out of alignment, and all of this plugs into the stuff that we showed you a while back that had to do with the moon and linking into Jupiter and all of that stuff that goes up into the galactic systems and that things. This is the earthly part, and that means that everything here has this spiral distortion, and they're not anchoring the natural Ruchete spiral pattern. If this continues, and what they're doing is amplifying the speed. They're allowing this to spin now, and they're making it spin very quickly, and they're progressing it. They're going to try to amp it to its highest level through the Buddhara wormholes over on the west coast. They're going to run it all the way through the wormhole linkages they have here, and they have quite a few systems. And what they're planning to do is use it to drag whatever of the grids are left, because remember, we've got some over here now. We've got a third of the radio body grids over this way in echo alignment, and they're trying to use this to suck it all back in. And that's not very nice. Yeah. So, because they're doing that, the echo frequencies up there can feel the tension that's being pulled on it. That's what triggered this. It's not anybody doing anything to them. But this is going to have its 12 pattern crashing back through it. That ought to be interesting. The people here and on this planet that can anchor this will help. We open our breathing tubes. That's the beginning where we can run it where it doesn't have to crash. It can gently move in and spiral, and it will simply burn that off. It will literally clear it as it moves through, because the Ruche pillar is coming from the echo level. It is the light cells, the photo light cells of the Yanesa. We have to stop? Okay. So anyway, so we have to stop. Are we being evicted? Yes. Okay. Anyway, I did get right to the end, and we will. I was saying it does. I can show you real quick, all right, even though we're getting evicted. You can do one thing really quick, because you probably want to play with the breath. We're going to we'll get the techniques and the chakra fixing techniques for the Saturday workshop. I get a feeling we might get some of this on site tomorrow as far as a bit more of the breathing. But simply practice trying to do the regular lotus arc stuff where you bring your pillar up when you inhale, right? And also bring your arcs up when you inhale. And then try to become aware that as you do that, you have this other set of arcs that's exhaling. Try to get a feel for the two sets of arcs. So it's hard to do this with the microphone in here, but just so when you inhale, the ones that are closer to you, imagine there's this other set that's going down to 45, right? And when you exhale yours, it can make it slightly dyslexic. Where you go, anyway, where'd my pillar go? And that kind of thing. Try to keep track of the breathing where you do your usual, where you inhale and bring your density arcs up. But at the same time, imagine your other ones, your big ones, crystal body ones, came down into the 45 degree. Try to keep track of the movement of the breathing, the two sets of arcs, one exhaling, one inhaling at the same time, and the pillar moving up and down. Try to work with that and see. I bet it will take a little bit. I keep losing track of one of them. It's usually the pillar. It goes, meow, whoops. It's like I drop my pillar every time I try to watch that second set of arcs. So try to work with that. We're going to be using, I think, a bit of that tomorrow, as long as we can get away with it without any being conspicuous on sites where we're not welcome or anything. Because you don't want to be saying, all right, guys, now do your pillars. And you have people growling at you. We got to go.
There are two issues. One of the coach drivers and the times that they can drive. The longer we stay here, the later we leave. I said I might come out tomorrow. We can't afford to do that.
Oh, okay. 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 Really? There's a legal restriction on what the bus drivers can do. Oh. Oh, my rest time between driving. Okay. Anyway, we're basically being told if we don't leave now, but besides the fact that we're being evicted because we're supposed to be out of here at 12:30 and it's 12:42, there's an issue with the bus drivers that if they have to wait any longer, we're going to have to wait longer tomorrow before we can go to the sites because there's legal restrictions on rest periods between. Yeah. Okay, what time are we meeting tomorrow? So, to be continued. We'll see you tomorrow for good work, and we'll see you Saturday for more workshop. Yeah. I hope this was worth the wait for you, this information. And the techniques are coming. Before you leave, you'll have them.
What time is the coach leaving, Mac?
We're leaving tomorrow at 11:15.
Yeah, and we've got to be leaving at 11:15.
Pardon?
I'm going to learn this. Yeah, 2 days to learn to walk high to my high heel shoes. Where was the washroom?
Castle come church. Alright, we're going to do a discreet code drop. Alright, and that means that you'll be, working really privately rather than any kind of group way, but if you happen to be with friends, that's alright. Nothing untoward about that. But really, it's a very sort of discreet, sophisticated, subtle, any word that works for you, job, to be blunt. And they will consist of the following components. Maharata sung quietly under the breath or even in the head without. The Kenko drop, immediately followed by 3 or 6 heart breaths. And then, just the Shalaya, if you want to do a little bit of Omeda when you're coming out, which you can do a little more energetically, so to speak, as you move away from the building, particularly if you're not in a club. Okay. Because you kind of start vibrating and draw a lot of attention to yourself when you're in a group. They're just the stages, the 3 given stages, and the Omeda adoption, including signs are coming down, right? Yes, 3 necessary steps and a 4th option step. Maharata, so under the breath or song in the head. Kemko drop, 3 or 6 arc breaths. Okay, arc breaths. And if you've got to the point of feeling comfortable with the doubles, you can play with the doubles. How should I apply it again and do all this discreetly?
Part here, or
And
hard
then
for
on
us
your way out,
to make sure it goes good.
let
Oh,
it
gotcha.
grow a little bit with the almeda, but try and avoid it doing it in clumps because it gets a little bit noticeable. Both Ashley and I have been filming a reception here this morning. We're not welcome at all. So just keep your wits about you as you run back in. Alright? Watch each other's backs, you know what I mean? Okay. Well, with that then, we're heading up that way.
Okay.
If anybody can do it without using their legs, you have a special True Advanced Masters Award. far as personal copies of these techniques are concerned, we will do our utmost to make copies in Salisbury if we can, of the handwritten script. If we can't do that, then I will guarantee you that I'll personally prepare them and we'll send them electronically before we leave for our vacation at the end of next week. Okay, so you will have them. There will be some degree of instruction provided, but very basically the techniques that you've been given today will replace the eyes of Ra, flame of Ra techniques that you will have been working with that we'd associate with character 3 levels. Of course, once, and I stress once, you've completed the given time of working with the Ra techniques. I can't remember what they are, but they're around about 8 weeks of duration, and you probably all know that there's no value at all in cutting corners. You know, you don't move into new techniques until you've completed the ones that precede them. Okay? These techniques, until instructed otherwise, are to be used on a twice-weekly basis. Okay? Right, I'll get right to it then if you're sitting comfortably. The second of these will at first hearing sound a bit complicated, so I'll actually read the second one. I'll read it through completely before I run it with you. And the only other thing to add is to try and work, even without any paper copy, with the idea of the two sets of the arcs. Try and get more comfortable with breathing both arc sets at the same time, because tomorrow at Stonehenge we'll be using the double arc breathing. Okay, so the only thing that you really need to retain is your own impression of how it feels to you if you have a kind of a see-feel relationship or a visual relationship with the dual arc movements. Okay, so just reach whatever comfort level you can by boxing or wait. All right, the first technique, which is pretty straightforward, First technique continues to refer to the, let's say, set 1, the first set of lotus arc sets. It still refers to them as lotus arc sets. In technique 2, we name the arc sets. So I'll say that we're about to work with the first level of arc sets, which are referred to by the name Ra, Na, Te. And the second set of arcs you'll hear in technique 2 are called the Sha, Na, Te. Alright? So we're working with Ra, Na, Te here, but you'll hear them called that in the second technique. Okay?
As the first one then is just using only one step.
You'll hear the steps will tell you what we're doing. Okay. Alright, technique 1 is called the zendradon awakening. Zendradon cell activation, opening the breathing tubes, the eight breaths of reclamation. Preparation for this is all Kathara 2-3 and relevant Kathara 4 Ra activation techniques. In this technique, the movement of the Maharic shield is used to direct the movement of the ethos body photo flame cell. So step 1A is to inhale into the Ra center on a 48-point axis, drawing the density lotus arcs, or the Ra Na Te, to the vertical inhale position to begin a breathing cycle, a complete breathing cycle. The inhale breath is the 0-point breath and is the start position. This is called, or thought of as breath 0. It's not a count breath, it's a prep breath. Not counted in the number series. The 0-point breath brings the ethos and the PCM grids into their start positions. So, take this inhale breath into the Ra center now on a 48-point axis, drawing the density lotus arcs to their vertical position. Exhale downward using the breath to push the Maharic shield, the ethos density 4 shield, downward to earth core. Fully expanding the ethos grid downward from the PCM. As you exhale and push the shield down, expand the density lotus arcs to their 45-degree axis expansion exhale position. So if you want to repeat that step, inhale, bring the arcs to the vertical position. Push the Maharic shield down to earth core. At the same time, feel the arcs come into their 45-degree position on the exhale. Now inhale upward to the Ra center, using the breath to draw the Maharic shield up to a position 12 inches below your feet. And draw the lotus arcs to the vertical at the same time, and count these steps as exhale 1 and inhale 1. Now we're going to repeat steps 1, B and 2, they're the 2 steps that we've just done, to complete a 6 exhale, 5 inhale breath cycle, moving the Maharic shield up and down with the breath, and moving the lotus arcs in and out in synchronization with moving the shield up and down. Yeah. No. So inhale, bring the arcs up to the vertical. On the exhale, push the Maharic shield down to earth core and push or allow the arcs to move into their 45 axis position. Inhale upwards to the Ra center using the breath as all the Maharic shield up to the position 12 inches below your feet, and draw the lotus arcs to the vertical position as you do that. And this is breath 2. Exhale the breath, push the Maharic shield down to earth core. Notice the arcs move to the 45-degree axis position. Inhale upwards again to the Ra center using the breath to draw the shield up to 12 inches below your feet, and the arcs come into the vertical position. That's step 3. Okay, exhale, push the shield down to earth core again. Allow the arcs to come out to 45 degrees. Then inhale from the Ra center or into the Ra center using the breath to draw the shield up to 12 inches below your feet to close the petals in the vertical position. Exhale.
exhale, push the shield down once more. The arcs are open at 45 degrees. Inhale upwards to the Ra center. Draw the shield up. Lotus arcs to vertical. Exhale, push the shield down. Inhale, bring the shield up and the arcs to vertical. And final exhale, push the shield down to earth core. Arcs out to 45. You have to breathe normally for a minute because I have to read this as we go along. Just breathe easy for a minute. You should be on an exhale pause, technically. Okay. So I'll get you into that position in a minute. Now we're moving on to the quickening, initiating the monadic spark. So just take an inhale and then exhale and hold that exhale. And we'll pick up at that point. So at the bottom of the sixth exhale, which is what we're calling this now, the Maharic shield will be in earth core. The density lotus arcs will be opened at 45 degrees expansion. Pause to receive the D13 monadic spark in the seed atom at this point. Now the next, the sixth inhale, the quickening ethos ascent. Inhale at the Ra center now, using this breath to draw the Maharic shield all the way up from earth core to chakra 12A, 24 inches above your head, aligning the ethos and eos grid photo cells. The zendradon cell now initiates. The lotus arcs come into the vertical position. Now, exhale. This is the seventh exhale, eros, etheric descent. It's the Aro Alon cycle. Exhale from chakra 12A at the center of the Maharic shield, 24 inches above your head, using the breath to push the shield to position 12 inches below your feet. Expand the lotus arcs to 45 degrees as you go. And at this point, the zendradon cell activates. Pause at the bottom of this exhale. Inhale from the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet, using a 1/3 inhale to draw the Maharic shield up to the Iyombi point, just below the navel, and draw the lotus arcs from their 45 axis expansion to what feels like 30%. So you're going to move them 15 degrees from 45. So that's 1/3 of the distance from 45 degrees out towards the head. So that's moving them to about there. Okay, so inhale now from the center of the Maharic shield, 12 inches below your feet, using a 1/3 inhale to draw the shield up to the Iyombi, and at the same time pull the lotus arcs up 15 degrees from the 45 degree position, or 1/3 the distance between where they sit at 45 to vertical. Just sense that as best you can. Pause at the 1/3 inhale with the Maharic shield at the Iyombi and the lotus arcs at 30 degrees. On until your state begins. Etheric and D1 atomic cells begin 45 degree shift of the Eka axis. The eighth exhale. Breathing tubes open. Exhale from the center of the Maharic shield at the Iyombi, using the breath to push the Maharic shield from the Iyombi to earth core. The lotus arcs close to their vertical as you push down. The Echolota breathing tube opens and the Ruche Ta braided etheric rainbow ray, 15 course current, descends from Echolota breathing tube into the PCM Loti and PKA Loti breathing tubes, opening the Loti and Loti breathing tubes and drawing Loti and Loti D1 bodies and their etheric cells into Biobecker fold, initiating Athonatilia state. The Ruche pillar and the Ruche Ta spiral reset initiates pillar 1 D1 subharmonics, 1 to 6 reset. Loti and Loti shift to Eka 0 point axis completely, 45 degree shift, and aligning with Shalaya chamber of the arc of the Karman passage. The eighth and final inhale, the Ruche Ta spiral activation. I'll read this first before we do it. We'll inhale from the center of the Maharic shield at earth core, using the breath to draw the Maharic shield up from earth core to chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head. Drawing Loti and Loti into merger with the Lota on D13 monadic and D1 subatomic levels. The zendradon cell consummates. Ruche Ta spiral chords and Ruche pillar 1, D1 subharmonics to 12 reset. The rainbow ray braid way to the center of the breathing tube, activating in preparation for activation of the diamond sun crystal body respiratory system, which is the technique that follows. So just inhale from the center of the Maharak shield at earth core, using the breath to draw the Maharak shield up from earth core to chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head. And then just exhale slowly and gently into chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head. Intend that the zendradon cell consummates. And the root-shaped spiral cords and the root-shaped pillar, the D1 through D12 subharmonics reset. The rainbow ray braid at the center of the breathing tube will activate in preparation for activation of the diamond sun crystal body respiratory system, which we will do after I've read it through to you one time. Pardon me?
On your eighth breath, what happens to the arc?
As far as the technique is concerned, it remains where we left it. Yes, that's right. This one's called the Zendradon Awakening. Releasing the Shanate, the required preparation of the technique that we just completed. Now I'll read these steps through one time before we do it. So it certainly feels a little bit complicated. Step 1. With the Maharak shield still stationed at chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head, and the Eros density 4 shield stationed 12 inches below the feet, we'll draw a 2-point inhale breath, 1 descending from chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and 1 component of the 2 ascending from chakra 13 at earth core. So one will be pulled down from chakra 14, one component, the other component up from the earth core, through the center of the breathing tube and into the seed atom and monadic core at the Azare, while leaving the Maharak ethos shield and Eros shield in their Lota alignment positions. Pause at the top of the inhale breath with the mental attention focused upon the Azare, and you are reminded to draw the density lotus arcs, the Ranate arcs, which is the first step that we've been working with, up into the vertical position as you inhale. Step 2 is to visualize or intend an image of the Eshara Rushate Kemaloatia monadic code, that's the Chem code, at the center of your seed atom, at the Azare. Then forcefully exhale from the Azare on a 6-petal axis, using the breath to open the density Ranate lotus arcs outward to the 45-degree axis position, and pause at the bottom of the exhale. I'm just reading it through. Step 3, we'll slowly inhale into the Azare, using the breath to slowly draw the density Ranate arcs back into the vertical position, while expanding your mental awareness to the presence of the Shanate diamond sun lotus arc sets of the lotus sphere and logosphere in the crystal body. Now, the Shanate petals are larger than their counterpart Ranate. Okay? So there simply will occur to you to be, if the Ranate arcs appear to you to be, they have their tips here, right? The Shanate will be some distance out beyond it. Okay? Just allow them to be larger. All right? It's too much to start to incorporate proportions and orders of magnitude. Just have them be one bigger than the other. So the R one is the smaller one, and the Sha one is the bigger one. As you slowly inhale and bring the Ra Na Te arcs, the small ones, into vertical closed position, Observe and intend that the larger Shanate arc sets, which have been phase locked in this so far in their vertical closed position, these larger ones begin expanding their petals into the 45-degree axis position in synchronization with the contraction of the Ranate arcs. Now all this is saying is that when the larger arcs are vertical, the smaller arcs are 45 degrees, and vice versa. So when you tell them to move the big ones to 45, the small ones are automatically moving to vertical. Okay? So you just have this movement between them. And a component of doing this is to get accustomed to feeling or noticing in some way appropriate to how you work with energy, but to try to notice the sensation of energy leaving your breathing tube as the Shanate expansion draws spent energy out of the pillar of power and back into the echolota. As this occurs, the myonic crystal and meiotic vortices activate, opening the outgoing radionic heliopaths and creating a vacuum within the breathing tube center. I wonder what it feels like to feel a vacuum in your breathing tube. It can be interesting. Pause at the top of this slow inhale and mentally orient, i.e. direct the arcs, the Shanate arcs expanded to 45 degrees and the Ranate arcs fully contracted into the central breathing tube. Try to sense the vacuum within the pillar of power breathing tube. Now slowly begin to exhale from the Azarema 2-point up-down vertical axis in the breathing tube. As the slow exhale progresses, intend or visualize that as the 2-point vertical breath slowly moves upwards and downwards, the density Ranate arcs synchronistically expand out of their vertical closed alignment back to 45 degrees axis expansion. As the 2-point exhale breath continues, the Ranate arcs expand or open, and the Shanate diamond synchronistically close, contract to the vertical position. At the bottom of the 2-point exhale breath, the 2-point breath will be expanded up and down the breathing tube from chakra 13, earth core, to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. The Ranate arcs are at full 45-degree expansion, and the Shanate diamond arcs are at full contraction. The Shanate petals align vertically within the crystal body breathing tube. Step 5. Pause for a moment at the bottom of this exhale breath and ensure the proper orientation of the arc sets as described above, and take a series of 6 offline surface breaths, breathing normally through the lungs only, not through the Azare, while keeping the lotus arc sets and breathing tube breaths fixed in their Ranate exhale position. During the 6 surface breaths, focus your mental attention on the interaction of energy that takes place between the Shanate arcs and the 0.5 radon photocells of the breathing tube as the Shanate inhale, Ranate exhale occurs. The Shanate arcs are closed and aligned vertically within the breathing tube. As this occurs, the 24 lota points activate and receive energy infusion from the lota, generating pulsar plasma waves that enter and activate the dionic crystal and diodic vortices and incoming radionic heliopath tubes of the diamond sun crystal body. As the pulsar plasma waves move inward toward the pillar of power, they release a catheric backflow radon current moving outward through the heliopath tubes. The radon backflow currents turn on the heliotalic rays, outward emanating, of the diamond sun crystal body. The inward moving pulsar plasma waves move inward through the heliopath tube into the interwoven 24 lotus points, and the lotus points transfer the pulsar waves into the radon cells in the breathing tube for storage. As you breathe normally using surface breaths, try to mentally follow this energy exchange from the Shanate arcs. Before re-engaging the breathing tube Azure breaths, mentally orient the Shanate arcs in their closed, that's vertical position, the Ranate arcs in their 45-degree axis, open exhale position, and visualize intend the sequence of heliopath tube sun rays turning on and the radon cells of the pillar of power turning to glowing orbs as they receive their infusion of pulsar waves from the 24 lotus points. Step 6 is to re-engage the breathing tube breaths with a slow 2-point inhale from the Azure, breathing energy down from chakra 14 and up from chakra 13, the breaths meeting in the Azure. Notice that as you engage the breathing tube with the Azure inhale, that the Ranate density arcs, which were in the expanded 45-degree position, move to the vertical inhale position, and the Shanate diamond arcs expand out of their inhale and back to their 45-degree exhale position. Pause at the top of the inhale and observe, intend that the breathing tube is vacated of energy by the exhaling Shanate arcs until the breathing tube reaches a rapid vacuum state, and then, as this vacuum state is reached, the radon cells fire, releasing a flood of heliotalic spark pulsar waves into the Ruchete spiral in the breathing tube. Step 7. Exhale a 2-point vertical breath slowly from the Azure, upward, downward in the breathing tube, while observing, intending that the Ranate arcs expand to 45-degree axis and the Shanate arcs again contract to vertical. Pause at the bottom of the exhale and observe, intend that the exhale of the Ranate, the Ruchete spiral in the breathing tube, transmits the incoming pulsar waves that's released from the radon cells of the Ruchete spiral in the previous Ranate inhale. There you make the transfer to the chakra seals and polarizes the Ruchete spiral to open the breathing tube and turn on the chakras. And the chakras release the synthesized pulsar wave currents to the nadis lines, nadial capsule, DNA template, silver sanctum flame body, lotus points, yang flow, and into the Manu windows and the nucleus of all the atoms in the body, beginning with those of the chemical DNA. Simultaneously, the Shanate arcs inhale and bring in more plasma rays to charge the radon cells. And it is this point that the breathing tube respiration cycle is now set in motion. Step 8 suggests that we should practice several sets of the double arc inhale, exhale breaths from the Azure. And I think it's pretty clear that here we have a technique for the first time that really is going to require some practice. Because to develop a relationship with all the different interactions and what's going on, in other words, to have an awareness of the effect of the interactions whilst you're also getting accustomed to moving these arcs. And by the way, we haven't mentioned the movement of the rod in this technique yet. All right, I mean, I'm struggling to stay connected with the technique in trying to, give you direction, support. So, I'm confessing to feeling that it's difficult too. Don't ask me a difficult question.
It's not. I don't think it's difficult anyway.
It probably will be if you think that.
The liver point,
Yes.
is that the Azure?
Yes. That was difficult. Thank you, Jane.
Do you know this time of the morning it'll be a simple question? Please don't wake up to
Well, don't worry, darling. I think we're all in the same state. This game of Ash pulls and Az pushes is really all right, but until you get hold of a technique like this and it's just stuck in your hand, you say, go to it, go push this at the guys. Wet. Wet. All right, so look, let's just do it. It's 11:30, and I don't know whether we're going to have time to get technique 3 in here, but we're going to try. It'll probably be a nuisance to the hotel staff who already don't like us very much anyway. All right. Just stay with it as best you can manage, okay, guys? It is a bit complicated. Zendradon Awakening, Technique 2, releasing the Shanate. With the Maharic shield still stationed at chakra 12A, 24 inches above the head, and the density 4 shield stationed 12 inches below your feet, draw a 2-point inhale breath, one from above at chakra 14, one up from below at earth core, through the center of the breathing tube. So make this 2-point breath, consciously intending it's coming through the center of the breathing tube and into the seed atom and monadic core at the Azare, while leaving the Maharic shield and the Eros shield in their Lota alignment positions. Just leave them alone. Take the breath, 2-point breath, above and below. Pause at the top of the inhale breath with your mental attention focused upon the Azare. Now at this point you should be remembering to draw your density lotus arcs, that's the small ones, the Ranate arcs, into the vertical position as a result of the inhale. So they will have moved on your inhale. Okay. Visualize or intend an image of the chem code at the center of your seed atom at the Azare, then forcefully exhale from the Azare on a 6-point petal axis, using the breath to open the Ranate lotus arcs outward to their 45-degree position. Pause at the bottom of the exhale, so hold the breath out. Next, slowly inhale into the Azare, using the breath to draw the density Ranate arcs back into the vertical position, while expanding your mental awareness of the presence of the larger Shanate diamond sun lotus arc sets. As you slowly inhale and bring the Ranate arcs into vertical position, observe and intend that the larger ones move out to their 45-degree position. Now try here to notice, for the first time perhaps, a sensation of energy leaving your breathing tube as the Shanate, the larger ones, draw spent energy out of the pillar of power and back into the echolota. As this occurs, the myonic crystal and meiotic vortices activate, opening the outgoing radionic heliopaths and creating a vacuum, no thing, within the breathing tube center. Pause at the top of this. Slow inhale and mentally orient your arcs. Now do that now if you're not sure. That's with the Shanate arcs expanded out to 45 degrees and the smaller arcs fully contracted into the vertical position in the breathing tube. And just breathe normally for a moment with your arcs positioned in this way. The smaller ones vertical, the larger ones at 45 degrees. And try and feel out the sense of vacuum or no thing in your breathing tube, just very briefly. Now slowly begin, technically, to begin an exhale. So if you're not in the right position, just take an inhale breath. And then slowly begin to exhale from the Azare on a 2-point up-down vertical axis. As the slow exhale progresses, intend or visualize that as the 2-point breath slowly move upwards and downwards, the density Ranate arcs expand out of their vertical position towards 45, and that the Shanate arcs move in the opposite direction. They move from 45 to vertical. At the bottom of the 2-point exhale, the 2-point breath will be expanded up and down the breathing tube from chakra 13 earth core to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. The smaller arcs will be at 45 degrees, the Shanate diamond arcs in the vertical position. Pause for a moment at the bottom of the exhale. Ensure the proper orientation of the arcs as we just described them. Take a series of 6 offline surface breaths, that's just lung breaths, breathing normally, not through the Azare, while keeping the arc sets and the breathing tube breath fixed in their current positions. During the 6 surface breaths, focus your mental attention on the interaction of energy that takes place between the Shanate arcs and the radon photocells of the breathing tube. During this process, the 24 lota points will activate and receive energy infusion from the lota, generating pulsar plasma waves that enter and activate the dionic crystal and diodic vortices and incoming radionic heliopath tubes of the diamond sun crystal body. As the pulsar plasma waves move inward toward the pillar of power, they release a catheric backflow radon current moving outward through the heliopath tubes. The radon backflow currents turn on the heliotalic rays of the diamond sun crystal body. The inward moving pulsar plasma waves move inward through the heliopath tubes into the interwoven 24 lotus points, and the lotus points transfer the pulsar waves into the radon cells in the breathing tube for storage. As you're breathing normally using these lung breaths, just simple surface breaths, try to mentally follow this energy exchange from the Shanate arcs. And before re-engaging breathing tube Azure breaths, mentally orient the Shanate arcs into their closed vertical position and the Ranate arcs in their 45-degree axis exhale position, and try to visualize or intend the sequence of heliopath tube sun rays turning on and the radon cells of the pillar of power turning to or becoming glowing orbs as they receive their infusion of pulsar waves from the 24 lotus points. Now we'll re-engage the breathing tube breath from this point with a slow 2-point inhale from the Azure, breathing energy down from chakra 14 and up from earth core, these breaths meeting in the Azure. Now try to notice that as you re-engage the breathing tube with the Azure inhale, that the smaller density arcs, which have been in the 45-degree position, move to the vertical inhale position, and the larger Shanate arcs expand out into their 45-degree position. Pause at the top of this inhale and observe or intend that the breathing tube is vacated of energy. It's drawn out by the exhaling Shanate arcs, the large ones, until the breathing tube reaches a rapid vacuum state. And then, as this vacuum state is reached, the radon cells fire, releasing a flood of heliotonic spark pulsar waves into the Rushete spiral in the breathing tube. Exhale a 2-point vertical breath slowly from the Azure upward downward in the breathing tube, while observing or intending that the smaller arcs expand out to 45-degree axis and the Shanate larger arcs again contract to their vertical position. Pause at the bottom of this exhale and observe or intend that at the exhale of the Ranate, the small ones, the Rushete spiral in the breathing tube transmits the incoming pulsar waves to the chakra seals, polarizing the Rushete spiral to open the breathing tube and turn on the chakras. The chakras then release the synthesized pulsar wave currents to the nadis lines, nadial capsule, DNA template, silver sanctum flame body, lotus points, yang flow, and into the Manu windows in the nucleus of all the atoms in the body, beginning with those of the chemical DNA. Simultaneously, the larger arcs inhale and bring in more plasma rays to charge the radon cells. Now, the final step, and this is the practice that you need to do, so I'll go over this a couple of times. This is the thing that you need to remember, apart from the sensations of doing the technique. Over the coming 12 to 18 hours, I suppose 24 hours, practice several sets of this double arc, inhale, exhale, breathing from the Azure. Using the Ranate close, Shanate open That's the small Ra-Nate, the larger Sha-Nate. Using the mental command on each physical inhale, and that's Ra-Nate open, Sha-Nate closed. So, I got myself lost in it. So double, yes. Using the Ra-Nate closed, yeah, okay. Mental command on each physical inhale, Ra-Nate closed, Sha-Nate open. And then Ra-Nate open, Sha-Nate closed on each exhale. That's basically it. Use slow breaths and try to mentally keep track of the counter-moving expansion-contraction arc sets, knowing that in this movement the reality of energy exchange, just a simple reality, and if you have to accept that as a simple reality that you can't track yet, just allow it to be that. So that in this moment, this movement, the reality of energy exchange within the breathing tube is taking place automatically. So when push comes to shove, just get the idea that you have the smaller ones closing and the larger ones opening on each physical inhale, and vice versa on each physical exhale. That's the bit that you need to practice by tomorrow morning. Okay? So we'll be doing this tomorrow morning. So I will scurry off and see if technique 3 is ready, and we'll squeeze that in before we have to leave here. So if you'll excuse me for a minute or two. Quick quiz. When you inhale, which of the arc sets is vertical? The small ones or the big ones? You all passed. Don't surprise me. Alright, technique 3 in 10 minutes, 11 minutes. It's here now. The fourth and final one, which is to do with what? The Ra, the small ones, the inner ones. The inner as opposed to the outer, or the small ones but the big ones. That's really it, if you can remember that. Right, so that when the small ones are vertical, the large ones are 45 degrees, and vice versa. So when you exhale, the little ones come out at 45, and the big ones come to vertical. Alright, that much I've learned in the last 10 minutes with you guys. That's not actually true, really, I'm just kidding. Just trying to make myself feel more comfortable. Technique 3, restoring the Rusheta spiral to the Christic imprint, overriding the graviton sextant vortex system. Hallelujah. Alright, there isn't time, I don't think, to read this and do it. So we'll do it just in one take. I'll do it slowly though, so our breathing necessarily may go out of the sequence, so we'll just restart the breathing instruction from each step. Alright, so if you have to go into normal breathing in between, then we'll do that, and then just pick up with the instruction and make sure that we're in the right position. So step 1, we're going to take a 48-point breath, a 0-point, 48-point breath. You understand that's the start position. Inhale a 48-point, 0-point breath into the Ra center, bringing the Ra-Nate density arcs up to the vertical position, and therefore the Sha-Nate diamond arcs out to their 45-degree axis exhale position. Bring the Maharic shield to 12 inches below the feet. All of this on the inhale. Small ones into vertical, large ones out to 45, and the shield up 12 inches below your feet. Visualize or intend the Ashara Rusheta Kemala Atiya code, the Chem code for short, at the center of the Maharic shield 12 inches below your feet. Just spend a second or two increasing your resolve and intention to have the Chem code be at the center of the Maharic shield. Then you will exhale rapidly from the Azure on a single point breath downward, using this breath to push the Maharic shield from 12 inches below your feet into earth core and the Mahadra at the center of earth core. As you exhale, draw the small arcs to the 45-degree axis position, the large ones in the vertical position. Now, when the Maharik shield enters earth core at the bottom of the exhale, you would rapidly and forcefully inhale if we were doing this smoothly. So in a minute, just get to an exhale point, and then we'll do the rapid inhale. You'll be breathing this rapidly from the Mahadra earth core and the center of the Maharik shield in earth core, using the inhale to rapidly draw the Maharik shield all the way up to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, and you'll hold the breath there. So get to an exhale position, right? Pretending that you've got the bottom of the previous exhale. Rapidly, forcefully inhale from the Mahadra, chakra 13, earth core, center of the Maharik shield, and rapidly draw the Maharik shield all the way up to chakra 14, 36 inches above the head. Hold the breath at the top of the inhale, and notice that as you rapidly draw the Maharik shield up to chakra 14, the Rana density arcs move to the vertical and the large ones move to the 45-degree axis. But as the Maharik shield passed into chakra 14, the parallel D14 primal light field, the diagonal petals of the Shana Te arcs expand to their 45-degree axis exhale position. But then popped out and jumped. What's this? Continuing a rapid phase expansion to horizontal 90-degree axis. Then rapidly jumping back to the 45 expansion axis. Hang on a minute, I have to go through this a second. So, get the bottom of the exhale, inhale. Alright, that's easy enough then. Hold the breath at the top. Right, what's happening here is that basically the big arcs are going to expand out to their 45-degree position on the exhale, but they will actually, as it were, jump forward. They will jump to a horizontal like this, and then they'll flip back again. So they're going to flip an extra stage down to horizontal and back to 45, all in this one. So we'll just quickly move back through that one. We'll repeat this whole thing. Right. So we'll start with a rapid and forceful inhale from the Mahadra. Okay. You draw the breath rapidly up, pulling the Maharik shield all the way to chakra 14. Hold the breath at the top. Notice that as you hold the breath at the top, the Ranate density arcs close to vertical, the Shanate arcs expand to 45, then they pop out to horizontal and they pop back up to 45. Okay. These spark the Loti rod, the Ranate arcs, were briefly joined by two more arcs from the PKA Loti that flashed on the horizontal 90-degree axis of the PCM Loti rod. The rods of the Loti and Loti spark at the top of the inhaled breath as the Loti Maharik shield ascends to chakra 14 for reset of the Rushete spiral, axiom and DNA template, the template of the time codes. Now, from an inhale and hold the breath briefly. Then we're going to exhale forcefully from the center of the Maharik shield at chakra 14, 36 inches above the head, using the exhale to push the Maharik shield all the way down to the Mahadra earth core, settling the restored Rushete spiral template into your etheric Siddhasam replica that exists within Earth's shield at the point of your personal Mahadra at chakra 13. Pause at the bottom of the exhale and notice that the Shanate arcs returned to their vertical position and the Ranate arcs expand to their 45 position. Next, we'll inhale gently and slowly from the center of the Maharik shield at earth core, using the breath to draw the Maharik shield slowly and gently up from earth core to position 12 inches below the feet. Continue this extended inhale staying at the shield 12 inches below your feet, keeping the Maharak shield in this position while expanding the rest of the inhale breath outward on a horizontal plane through the Maharak shield and along the 12 fire-letter lines of the Maharak shield. So we'll repeat this breath. Now we know what we're doing with it. Yes, Amy?
Are we doing this again? Because I don't know what everyone's doing.
I said at the beginning that I didn't have time to do it twice, that we would do it cold. We've got 3 minutes left in the room.
Can I just look at it afterwards?
You will all be given a copy. You won't lose a damn thing by having to familiarise yourself in a detailed way with this as soon as I can get you copies. And they will be sent out to you before we leave for vacation. No danger. Okay? The universe will wait for us to catch up. A week won't hurt. Okay. Now we're going to inhale gently and slowly. We're going to repeat this step. From the center, just pick it up as I'm speaking it. Inhale gently and slowly from the center of the Maharak shield at Earth core. Using the inhale to draw the Maharak shield up from Earth core to a position 12 inches below your feet. Continue the inhale, staying focused on the Maharak shield 12 inches below your feet. Keeping the Maharak shield in this position while expanding this long inhale breath outward on a horizontal plane through the entire shield and along the 12 fire-letter lines of the Maharak shield position 12 inches below your feet. That's a very long inhale up from Earth core into the center of the shield. Continue to inhale and intend that this inhale is beginning to move horizontally along the fire-letter lines in the shield, okay? Now, leaving the Maharak shield just where it is, 12 inches below the feet, exhale from this long inhale. So take another inhale and hold it for a minute. Exhale a starburst of pale aquamarine and pale silver violet halotalic frequency outward from the center of your Maharak shield and through all of the 12 fire-letter lines simultaneously. Return to surface breathing, simple lungs breathing, and observe as the entire Maharak shield and both the Shanate and Ranate lotus arc sets flash with a brilliant pale aquamarine, pale silver violet light. The restored Ruchete spiral timecode template is now fully embedded within the etheric and density templates. Take a final 24-point inhale breath into the Azure and Siddhasana, drawing Ranate arcs vertical, Shanate arcs to 45. Exhale gently on a 6-point axis along the lotus arc transmission lines of the Ranate and observe, intend that your diamond sun crystal body heliopath tubes in the outer lotus sphere and logosphere turn on and your crystal body looks like a sunburst with 48 outgoing radiant rays. Now just resume natural breathing and be aware that your Ruchete spiral will now self-adjust itself and the entire D13 and D1 anatomy to the restored Christic pattern. Your Shanate and Ranate arcs will follow their natural time wave of counterphasing and your breathing tube will stay open, all on the D13 and D1 levels only, with zendradon activation, setting the core of the crystal body biocomputer to the natural Christic pattern in preparation for Kethradon activation. This D13-D1 restoration of the Ruchete spiral will initiate self-realignment of the myonic and dionic crystals. Chakras can now be individually reset to natural Ruchete to expedite restoration of natural polarity alignment in the etheric and physical bodies. And this technique will be given in writing for Stonehenge tomorrow. Okay? Keep your the sheet of codes that you have safely, because you will be using palm imprinting and transfer to chakra positions. You make the transfer from imprinting the palms and moving them to the appropriate chakras, which we'll be talking about tomorrow. Okay? Yes, keep them safe. Try not to get them crumpled up because you'll be putting in palms. No, don't cut them. We'll just tell you where, which they're all numbered. We'll tell you where to put your palms. Okay, but the easiest way to do it, I think. All right, thank you again for your loving patience. And just mentally move the applause up to room 134 because I don't know how she does it. Not about you guys asking me how she does it. But these have taken since 4:30 a.m. this morning to get through. All right, so one more to go and we'll make it. No question. So we'll see you in Salisbury later on today, and we'll enjoy our weeding before our farewell supper. And if you practiced letting your hair down last night, then you'll probably do it very well tonight. And I understand we have some English burlesque to look forward to as well. Chicanery from the Anglos. Anyway, toodaloo, have a safe trip. See you later.
Inspired by her. She is our muse for this one. And we have been since Norwich, I think, sparking ever since the foyer in there. And on the bus, we've just been getting direct transmission. But this is definitely pre-production, pre-publication.
Don't tell Noel that.
Improvisational, spontaneous, but all delivered with the greatest gift we can give ourselves, which is joy. Once upon a time, a voyager arrived in a far distant land. This land was known to many as merry old England.
Excuse me, I'm looking for the... Excuse me. Help me, I'm looking for Cornwall. Excuse me. Cornwall. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me, ma'am. Excuse me.
Go, Todd.
Oi, geezer! Got a ciggy?
What?
Excuse me, I'm looking for Cornwall. Cornwall, Arcade 12. Cornwall, Arcade 12.
Very helpful. Hello, darling. What can I get you? Nice cup of Rosie. Rosie Lee. Tea.
I would like a dark roast. French roast.
No, God, we only got Nescafe. Do you want a biscuit with that? We got some lovely coconut macaroon. Or the special of the day is macaroni cheese.
No thanks. No thanks. I I just have to use the bathroom.
You want to take a bath?
Bathroom. Bathroom. Bathroom.
Oh, you want to take a Jimmy? Jimmy Riddle? No, we ain't allowed you alone. You'll have to go down the Frog and Toad, past the Chippy, and ask my old man. 1, 2, 3. My old man is a star. He wears a custom cap. He wears a whitey trousers. He wears a custom cap. He wears a whitey trousers. La 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 la. He calls them up. I call them lazy boots.
I need a Jimmy.
I'm no Jimmy Assassinate.
I'm from America.
Okay. And so you are. Sorry about the Glaswegian kiss, like. Are you here to find the village of your ancestors or something?
I'm looking for Cornwall. Arcade 12.
Oh, Cornwall, is it? Well, if you're going that far, might I suggest a wee bit of sustenance to fortify your constitution to the endeavour?
That sounds like a great idea. What would you suggest?
Well, you could avail yourself of a deep-fried haggis from the local chippy. It's right tasty. I'm sure you'll all love it. Then you could wash it down with a pint of heavy, followed by a wee dram of Mac Callum malt. Okay, a wee dram.
Okay, a wee drum.
Okay, a wee dram.
Okay, a wee drum. Okay, a wee drum. Okay, a wee drum. Okay, a wee drum. Okay, a wee drum.
I beg your pardon.
I'm looking for Arcade 12.
Are you insinuating that we have 12 gates in this estate? We have various gates. Let me inform you, young man, that we have magnificent architecture. Ranging from gates with arches, magnificent porticos, and a jolly good iron gate for the servants' quarters. And of course, there are a few gates for the stables. What is it again that you said you were selling?
Arc Gate 12.
Yes, young man. What is it you were saying you were selling? Are you from Freedman's and Mason's in London? I'm expecting a delivery. The Duchess of York recently purchased a china set similar to the one.
No. I'm looking for Arc Gate 12. I need to go to Arc Gate 12. Cornwall.
A place, young man. Right. You require transport then? Yes. Public transport. I'm going to the dark
We've got coach trips to your grid sites. We've got sing songs on the bus. We've got rambles up to Milk Hill. Make a stand there. Come with us. There are sleepwalks up to the door. You'll be greeted at the door by your old friends and some new ones. Glastonbury holds much more. Down to Cornwall by the seaside to the church there on the mounds. Drop your coats and keep your shields up. Frequency is all that counts. Got a question, you've the answer. Check with mentor, day or night. If you're still lost in confusion, send an email to Max.
Is this the bus to Cornwall?
Right, you're on me, I'm looking.
Yes.
Okay, sweetie.
Sweetie. Hey, calm down.
I'm sorry. Is this bus going close to the Stargate?
Sorry, mate. I'll give you a bell when we get there. You shoot up here, past the alehouse, and the left at Mackey's. 3 stops after that. My mum and my dad are having a do on tomorrow, so I'm going to grab the cash and let them know. You've got to have them every year, do, because that's what they do, don't they?
again when we get there.
All right, lad.
All right, lad.
All right, lad.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
All right, lad.
All right, lad.
Trousers this time.
All right, lad.
Leila's finger.
All right, lad. All right, lad. All right, lad. All right, lad.
Hey, Dr. Ray to what? No, we're in the pop room.
I'm looking for Arcade 12. Cornwall.
You don't want to go there today, Doc.
Why is that?
Because I reckon it's going to be brass and you look like a right nesh bugger to me.
Cold. Oh, okay. It's going to be cold.
It's okay, I know how to stay active.
I don't know. You could kick a bow again and empty your head until you lost it. But I don't reckon you'd stay one.
Focus.
I'll be fine.
Oh, right, come here then, I'll show you my MacBook.
Thank you, sir.
All right then.
All right, then.
All right then.
All right, then.
All right then.
All right, then. Excuse me, sir. I'm looking for the arcade. Arcade 12, Cornwall.
Okay.
Arcade 12, Cornwall.
Sleek 'em off. It's over there.
Hey, I'm Charles. How was your CRM?
CRM? Christos realignment mission?
No, the cultural realignment mission.
Ah, that's what this is about.
Well done. Are you ready for your next mission?
Mission? No, I prefer a lengthy vacation meetings. I mean a holiday.
New York review in there somewhere.
Well, let's force my words. The British can let their hair down. I know that. You know this is like video. You know this is an official part of this workshop.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is evident we started something big. Since it seems this began as a result of the English lack of, or overabundance of reserve and lack of forthcoming humour, shall we say, it would seem logical, if not a matter of sequential consequence, that the next venue that we share, the Americans demonstrate to us how it is for them. I can only say, in family speak, that those indigos that occupy the Emerald Isles on this side of the Atlantic would be interested to see how our brothers and sisters that occupy other parts of the Atlantic domain would respond to some similar observations. Like a lack of humour, over-directness, unbelievable innocence and simplicity, projected expectations, and even fundamental things like dealing with a lack of water pressure. We await your response with interest. Tell us how you really feel. You are in charge.
There isn't any unreasonable association between people and partners. Anyway, it's a bit early, isn't it? And nothing that disrespects the sight or the stones. Okay, pretty serious. We have a simple task of figuring out how many people make 27 as we leave the car park to go across the site, because there's a limit on the number of people that can go in at any one time. So there'll be 3 groups, and I presume the security guys will count us off as we go. The 3 speakers will be present for each of the 3 stands that we do, so that means 24 go with 3 speakers each time. All right. When we're in there, we will need to be a bit nifty. We're going to just stand up in the positions that we've used during this week, which is the clock shape, all right? So, I mean, it doesn't really matter who stands in 12, who stands in 6, as long as we get a decision quickly and somebody goes and stands there. I'll show you the adjusted alignment, okay? For the section distortion when we get in. And I'll put, anybody will do 12, fine, stand there, please. And 6 to correspond, then we'll put the 3s and 9s and then fill in, all right? And it doesn't really matter terribly much how many people stand at each point, as long as there's a reasonable distribution. You'll hear better when we're in a smaller group when we go inside. Okay? I'll remind you what we're going to do when we get in there. Simple stuff, same routine that we've used all week. Okay? Except that we'll use the art code breathing throughout, except when we're singing the Maharada or doing anything else around that, so it's a little bit difficult, but still try and keep your attention on the breathing. Alright? That's basically it. So, first 27, off we go.
Do we need this code?
You need it somewhere in and about you. You can have it physically, you can have it
Up in your head.
yeah.
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 We could go in the center of the center.
Oh, okay.
Can't even give us eyes. It comes from the eyes. Yeah. We're not just walking around, but no more than 20 kids can go in over
The rest of you guys, please have a walk down, keep to the track, watch the grass when you do that, because it may be a little bit slippery. Hi, Queensland. How you doing? I got Barnum's fever from that place. I was there 12 months ago.
do you live in the bottom of the cement stand inside it?
I've not finished travelling yet. 3 years in Spain, 3 years in Portugal.
There's a faith in that. Do you see it?
Sharadikeshe Tahanira Pranachi Manu Ekredakuki Mahayana Freori Manekahi Hahura Haramaya Manaki Edreinae Akasha Sharadikeshe Tahanira Pranachi Manu Ekredakuki Mahayana Freori Manekahi Hahura Haramaya Manaki Edreinae Akasha Ire Sharadikeshe Tahanira Pranachi Manu Ekredakuki Mahayana Treori Manekahi Hahura Haramaya Manaki Umae Treinae Akasha Ire Sharadikeshe Tahanira Pranachi Manu Ekredakuki Mahayana Treori Manekahi Hahura Haramaya Manaki Taishan Tadoy.
For approximately the next 20 minutes, just mingle amongst the stones, and as you feel inclined to, transfer the tongue code directly bypassing. Transfer the code into any of the stones that you resonate with or not. That can just deeper and deeper.
Group in. Oh, thank you.